I never thought I'd be the kind of girl who gets caught in her own web of texts, but here we are. You know that feeling when something you said in private suddenly isn't private anymore? Yeah, that gut-dropping moment just happened to me. My name's Caitlin, I'm 26. And I'm still processing how everything in my relationship imploded because Barry found a text I sent to my sister, like, I wasn't even talking directly to him. It was a private conversation between me and my sister about how I felt about things. Is that really such a crime? We all vent to our siblings, right? I mean, if you can't be honest about your relationship with your own sister, then who can you be honest with? But now I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and explain how this whole mess started. Barry and I have been dating for about 2 years now. We're both in doctoral programs, though in completely different fields. I'm in clinical psychology with a focus on neuropsychology, which is basically going to set me up for an amazing career once I graduate. We're talking private practice, hospital consulting, corporate wellness programs, the works. I'm projected to make between $250 to $300K right out of school, not to brag. But that's pretty impressive, right? Barry, on the other hand, is getting his PhD in some obscure humanities field, something about environmental literature or whatever. Don't get me wrong, he's smart, but his career prospects are limited. He'll probably end up teaching at some small college making around $130 if he's lucky, which isn't bad money. But it's not exactly setting the world on fire, you know? And it's not just about money. Our whole lifestyles are different. I'm very conscious about what I eat. Lots of lean proteins, complex carbs, superfoods. I meal prep every Sunday, hit the gym 4 times a week, and make sure I'm taking care of myself. Barry? He'll literally eat ramen 3 nights in a row and think adding an egg to it makes it nutritionally balanced. He says he's too busy to cook real food, but somehow finds time to binge entire seasons of those weird documentaries he loves. I mean, he's not overweight or anything, actually, he's pretty slim, but that's just genetics. His eating habits are atrocious, and I've tried to help him, but he just doesn't seem to care as much as I do about personal optimization. I didn't notice these differences as much when we first started dating. He was charming, attentive, and we had great conversations. He'd listen to me talk about my research for hours and seem genuinely interested. But lately, I've been wondering if we're really matched well for the long term. My friends are all dating guys who are either already successful or on impressive career trajectories. They go on fancy vacations, receive thoughtful, expensive gifts, and get taken to high-end restaurants regularly. Meanwhile, Barry thinks his special date is cooking dinner at home and watching a movie on the couch, which was cute at first, but after 2 years? Come on, show some ambition, dude. So about 3 weeks ago, I had this amazing opportunity come up at school. My advisor invited me and a few other doctoral candidates to join a Sunset Cruise networking event with some major players in the field. Hospital directors, private practice owners, pharmaceutical research recruiters, people who could potentially offer me jobs after graduation. It was going to be this gorgeous evening cruise with a fancy dinner and open bar. Basically, the perfect chance to make connections while enjoying luxury treatment for a night. The only problem? Barry had a presentation due the next day that he needed to work on. When I told him about the cruise, he immediately offered to stay home and work on his presentation so I could go. I accepted his offer without hesitation. Obviously, this was a crucial career opportunity for me. Honestly, I was kind of relieved he couldn't come anyway. Barry can be a bit awkward in networking situations. He doesn't quite understand how to make the right impression with important people, tends to talk too much about his obscure research interests, and doesn't dress quite right for upscale events. The last thing I needed was to be managing his social interactions while trying to impress potential employers. So I went to the alone, wore my best cocktail dress, and had an absolutely amazing time. I made connections with 3 different hospital directors and even got the business card of a pharma exec who told me to call her directly when I graduate. It was exactly the kind of evening that moves a career forward. When I got home that night, Barry was still up working on his presentation. He asked how it went, and I gave him the highlights while he nodded and smiled, but I could tell he was only half listening. That's another thing, he claims to be supportive of my career, but sometimes I don't think he really understands just how important these connections are. Anyway, he eventually finished his presentation at like 3 a.m. and was exhausted the next day, which meant he was basically useless when I wanted to discuss more details about the amazing opportunities I discovered on the cruise. I mean, I get that he was tired, but this was important to me. He could have at least tried to engage more enthusiastically, you know? Anyway, that whole cruise situation was nothing compared to what happened next. So I have this friend from undergrad, Jason, who I've known forever. He moved to Seattle after graduation, which is about a 6-hour flight from where Barry and I live. Jason and I have always been close, and he recently went through a bad breakup, so when he invited me to come visit for a weekend, I thought, why not? It would just be a quick trip. Fly in Friday night, spend Saturday together, fly back Sunday. I figured it would be good to be there for a friend going through a rough time. When I told Barry about my plans, he got this weird look on his face. Then he asked, "So you're willing to fly 6 hours each way to spend one day with Jason, but you never come to visit me when I'm just an hour away?" For context, Barry lives in an apartment near campus, and I live about an hour away with a roommate in a nicer area. Whenever we hang out, he's always the one who drives to see me. I don't think I've been to his place more than 3 or 4 times in our whole relationship. I tried explaining that it was totally different. Jason was going through a crisis and needed support. Plus, I hadn't seen him in years while I see Barry all the time, but Barry wouldn't drop it. He kept comparing the situations, saying if I cared about our relationship, I would make the same effort for him that I was willing to make for Jason. The conversation quickly escalated into an argument. "It seems like you're always willing to go above and beyond for everyone except me," he said, which was completely unfair. Like, I support him in plenty of ways. Just because I don't drive to his dumpy little apartment doesn't mean I don't put effort into our relationship. His place is tiny and always messy, and my apartment has a nice kitchen and an actual living room where we can hang out comfortably. It just makes more sense for him to come to me. But Barry wouldn't let it go. He started bringing up other examples. How I'll spend money on nice dinners out with my girlfriends, but complain when he wants to go somewhere that's not on my meal plan. Or how I'll stay up late texting my sister, but claim I'm too tired to talk when he calls after 10 p.m. He was clearly overreacting. And honestly, it felt like he was just being insecure about Jason. I mean, Jason and I are just friends. We've never been anything more than that. The argument got pretty heated, and I ended up canceling my trip to Seattle because Barry made such a big deal about it, which made me resentful because now my friend was going through a hard time alone, and it was all because my boyfriend couldn't handle me having male friends. After we cooled down, Barry apologized for overreacting, but I could tell he still thought he was right. I apologized too, just to move past it. But honestly, I was still annoyed that he made such a fuss over nothing. That night, after Barry went home, I called my sister Megan to vent. I told her everything about the argument, and how frustrating it was that Barry didn't seem to understand that different relationships require different kinds of effort. Megan has always been my sounding board for relationship stuff, and she's usually pretty supportive. But this time, she actually challenged me a bit. "I like Barry a lot," she texted. "But I feel like you are very much out of his league, and he should try harder to be a better man for you." I immediately responded, "I agree." And then I went on to list all the things that had been bothering me about him, how he eats like trash while I'm super health conscious, how unambitious he seems compared to me and my friends' partners, how I'm going to make so much more money than him and I might end up resenting that down the line. I even admitted that I wasn't sure I'd want to have kids with him because I didn't want them to inherit his lack of drive. To be fair, we had just had that big fight, so I was venting. Everyone vents to their siblings, right? It's not like I would ever say those things to Barry's face. I still cared about him. He was sweet and he made me laugh, and when he wasn't being insecure, we had a good time together. Plus, he was really supportive in a lot of ways, like letting me go to that networking cruise. But the truth was, there was an imbalance in our relationship, and sometimes it was frustrating to feel like I was settling. Anyway, after that text exchange with my sister, things actually went back to normal with Barry for about a week. We didn't talk anymore about the Jason situation, and I tried to be a little more attentive to show him that I did care. I even offered to cook dinner at his place one night, which is something I almost never do. But I could tell something was still off. Barry seemed distracted, like he was holding something back. When I asked him what was wrong, he'd just say he was stressed about school. But I didn't really buy it. One night we were at my place watching a movie and Barry kept checking his phone. I jokingly asked if he was texting another girl and he got super defensive, which was weird because it was obviously a joke. We ended up getting into another small argument about trust and communication, and he left earlier than he normally would have done the next day. He texted that he needed some space to think about things. I was confused because, as far as I knew, we'd worked through our issues about the Jason thing. What else could be bothering him? I gave him the space he asked for, didn't text or call for 3 days. On the 4th day, I was getting annoyed. Like, how much space did he need? I had stuff I wanted to talk to him about, including this conference I was thinking of attending that we might be able to turn into a mini vacation afterward. So I finally texted asking if we could talk. He agreed to come over that evening. When Barry arrived at my apartment, I could immediately tell something was seriously wrong. His energy was completely different, cold, distant. He sat on the opposite end of the couch instead of next to me like usual. Before I could even ask about the conference, he said, "We need to talk about something," and my stomach just dropped. "I know what you said to your sister," he continued, his voice unnervingly calm. "About me being out of your league, about not wanting to have kids with me. About resenting me for making less money." I felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. How could he possibly know about that conversation? Those were private texts between me and Megan, unless, oh God. "Did you go through my phone?" I asked, my voice rising. The idea that he would invade my privacy like that made me immediately defensive. "No," he said. "I accidentally saw it when I was using your laptop to send myself the presentation file. I was looking for my name in your messages to send it to myself, and I saw your sister's text mentioning me." I remembered now the night of the cruise when he was working on his presentation at my place. He must have seen the conversation when he was trying to send the file to himself, which meant he'd known about it for weeks and hadn't said anything. He'd been pretending everything was fine while secretly harboring all this resentment. Talk about emotional manipulation. So you read my private conversation with my sister and then didn't say anything about it for weeks? I shot back. That's really mature. Barry's expression hardened. I needed time to process it, Caitlin. Finding out that your girlfriend thinks you're beneath her isn't exactly easy to deal with. I never said you were beneath me, I protested. Though, technically, I had agreed with Megan's out-of-your-league comment. I was just venting after our fight. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're upset, do they? Barry asked quietly. Because it seemed pretty consistent with how you've been treating me for months now. Always expecting me to come to you, making comments about my diet, my career choice, my apartment, looking down on me for not making as much money as you will someday. Was all of that just venting too? I felt cornered. Yes, I had said those things. But they were private thoughts. Everyone has private thoughts about their partner that they wouldn't say to their face. That doesn't mean those thoughts define the whole relationship. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I said, it was one conversation with my sister during a fight. It doesn't reflect how I really feel about you. Then how do you really feel? About me? He asked, looking me directly in the eyes. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've been settling for me while waiting for something better to come along. His words stung because there was a grain of truth in them. Not that I was actively looking for someone else, but I had wondered sometimes if Barry was really the right long-term match for me. Still, I cared about him and I hated that he was. Making me out to be some kind of villain for having normal relationship doubts. That's not fair, I said finally. I've invested 2 years in this relationship. If I thought you were just some placeholder, I wouldn't have stuck around this long. Barry shook his head. Investing time isn't the same as investing yourself. Caitlin, when was the last time you really put me first? When was the last time you made a sacrifice for me instead of expecting me to accommodate your needs? I opened my mouth to argue, but realized I couldn't think of a clear example off the top of my head. It made me defensive. Relationships aren't about keeping score, I said. And anyway, you act like you've been so perfect. You knew how important my career networking is, but you barely asked about the cruise. You get weird and jealous about my male friends. You expect me to come visit your tiny apartment even though my place is way more comfortable. See, that's exactly it, Barry said, his voice rising slightly. Everything is always on your terms. Your career is more important than mine. Your comfort matters more than mine. Your friends are a priority, but mine are just people you tolerate. I'm tired of being treated like I'm lucky you even give me the time of day. That's not how I see it at all, I protested, feeling tears starting to form. I wasn't used to Barry being this confrontational. He was usually the one who backed down in arguments. I think you're being really unfair, just because I said some things to my sister in the heat of the moment. It's not just what you said. Barry interrupted Daw, it's how you've been acting all along. The text just confirmed what I was already feeling, that you don't respect me, that you think you're settling by being with me. I felt my defenses crumbling. A bit. Had I really been that terrible to him? I didn't think so, but the hurt in his eyes was real. I do respect you, I said more softly. I'm sorry if I made you feel otherwise. Barry was quiet for a moment, just looking at me, then he sighed. I don't think you're a bad person, Caitlin. I think you genuinely don't see how your behavior affects others, but I can't keep being with someone who sees me as beneath them. I deserve better than that. My stomach dropped. Are you breaking up with me? I think we need to take a step back, he said. I need some time to figure out if I can get past this. And you need time to really think about what you want in a relationship, because right now it doesn't seem like it's me. I started to cry then. Not just gentle tears, but full-on sobbing. This couldn't be happening. Yes, I had my doubts sometimes, but I wasn't ready to lose Barry. Despite all my complaints, he was a constant in my life, someone I counted on. Please, I said between sobs. Let's just talk about this. We can work it out. Barry looked pained, but he stood firm. I've tried talking, Caitlin. For months, I've tried to tell you how I felt, but you never really listened. You always had a justification, always made me feel like I was being too sensitive. I need more than just another conversation where nothing changes. I can change, I promise desperately. I'll visit your apartment more. I'll be more supportive of your career. Just please don't end things like this, Daw. It's not about checking boxes. He said quietly. It's about whether you genuinely see me as your equal, and right now I don't think you do. He got up to leave and I followed him to the door, still pleading for him to stay and talk more, but his mind seemed made up. At the door he turned and said, I need at least a couple of weeks. No contact, just time to think. Then maybe we can talk again, and then he left. I stood in my doorway watching him walk to his car, feeling like my world was imploding. How had things fallen apart so quickly? All because of some stupid text with my sister that he was never supposed to see. The next 2 weeks were awful. I kept reaching for my phone to text Barry, only to remember that we were on a break. I went back and forth between being angry at him for overreacting and feeling guilty about the things I'd said. I replayed our relationship in my mind, trying to see it from his perspective. Had I really been treating him like he was beneath me? I didn't think so, but some of his examples hit uncomfortably close to home. During this time, I talked to Megan a lot, though I was careful not to text anything I wouldn't want Barry to see, just in case we got back together and he somehow saw my messages again. Megan was sympathetic, but also surprisingly candid. Maybe he has a point, she said during one of our conversations. You do kind of talk down about him sometimes. I thought that was just how you felt about him. I don't talk down about him. I protested. I just vent sometimes when he frustrates me. Yeah, but you only ever vent, Megan pointed out. You rarely talk about what you love about him, or why you're with him. It's always complaints about what he's not doing right or how he's not matching up to your standards. That conversation with Megan stuck with me. I started looking through our old text threads and realized she was right. Most of my messages about Barry were complaints. When did I become so negative about him? I tried to remember what had attracted me to him in the first place. His intelligence, his thoughtfulness, his ability to make me laugh, the way he really listened when I talked about my day. The sweet little gestures he'd make, like bringing me my favorite coffee when I was studying late. Had I just started taking all of that for granted? As the end of our 2-week break approached, I psyched myself up to fight for our relationship. I would apologize sincerely, acknowledge my behavior, and promise to do better. I even planned a nice dinner at my place. I'd cook his favorite meal. The one I usually complained was too carb-heavy for my diet plan. I bought a bottle of his favorite wine. I was going to show him I could prioritize his preferences for once, but when the 2 weeks were up, Barry didn't call. I waited all day, checking my phone constantly, but nothing. Finally, around 8 p.m., I broke down and texted him. It's been 2 weeks. Can we talk? 3 agonizing hours later, he responded. I need a little more time. Sorry, I was furious. More time? After I'd spent 2 weeks reflecting and planning and preparing to fix things, I fired back a heated text asking how much more time he needed and reminding him that he was the one who suggested 2 weeks. His response was so Barry, calm, measured, but firm. I'm not ready to talk yet. I'll reach out when I am. Please respect that. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a bottle of wine, the one I'd bought for our reconciliation dinner, and drank most of it while scrolling through our old photos together. The more I drank, the angrier I got. Who did he think he was, stringing me along like this? If he wanted to break up, he should just say so instead of this needing time nonsense. In my wine-fueled state, I did something I now regret. I posted a vague but obviously relationship-related status on Facebook. Funny how you think you know someone until they show their true colors. Cash time to cut ties, know your worth. I even changed my relationship status from in a relationship to it's complicated. The response was immediate. Friends commenting with heart emojis and you deserve better girl messages. A few asking what happened and if I was okay. My phone started blowing up with notifications. It felt validating having all these people rallying around me, even if they didn't know the full story. The next morning, nursing a hangover and reviewing my social media activity with regret, I got a text from Barry. I guess that answers my question about whether you were really interested in working things out. Good luck with everything, Caitlin. My heart sank. I immediately tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted explaining that I'd been drunk and upset and didn't mean it. No response. I called again, nothing. After 3 days of desperate attempts to reach him, I finally got a formal-sounding email. Barry explained that he'd been taking time to decide whether our relationship was salvageable, but my social media post made it clear I wasn't actually committed to working through our issues with maturity and respect. He said he was officially ending our relationship and asked that I not contact him again except for logistical matters about returning each other's belongings. I was devastated. How had a few texts with my sister and one stupid drunk Facebook post destroyed a 2-year relationship? It seemed so unfair. Yes, I'd said some unkind things, but who hasn't? And yes, maybe I had been taking him for granted a bit, but that didn't mean I care about him. He was throwing away everything we had, built over what felt like minor issues that could have been fixed with some effort and communication. It's been a month now since that email, and Barry and I haven't spoken. We arranged the exchange of belongings through a mutual friend. I've heard through the campus grapevine that he's been focusing intensely on his research and even received some kind of departmental award recently. Meanwhile, I'm still struggling to understand how everything fell apart so quickly. The worst part is that I'm starting to see that he might have been right about some things, not about deserving someone better than me. That's ridiculous. But about me not treating him as an equal. Little memories keep popping up. Times when I dismissed his career goals as impractical while expecting him to cheer for mine. Occasions when I made him change restaurants because the one he picked didn't fit my meal plan. Instances when I expected him to drop everything to help me, but got annoyed when he asked for the same. But even if I made some mistakes, I still don't think it warranted ending our relationship. Relationships take work and compromise from both sides. Barry acted like I was this terrible girlfriend, but he wasn't perfect either. He was passive until suddenly he wasn't. He let resentment build up instead of addressing issues as they came up, and he completely overreacted to what was just private venting between me and my sister. Now I'm left wondering if I should try once more to reach out to him to really apologize and see if we can start fresh. Or maybe this is for the best. If he could walk away this easily, perhaps we weren't meant to be together long-term anyway. There are plenty of guys out there who would appreciate what I bring to a relationship. My ambition, my standards, my drive to be the best version of myself. Still, I miss him. Not just having a boyfriend, but having Barry with his dorky jokes and his thoughtful insights and the way he could always tell when I was stressed even before I recognized it myself. I miss the comfort of having someone who knew me so well. I just wish he hadn't seen those texts, or that I hadn't sent them in the first place. Or that he had understood they were just momentary frustrations, not my true feelings about him. Because, despite what I said to Megan, Barry was never actually out of my league. If anything, I'm realizing too late that it might have been the other way around.